Everybody feels lonely from time to time. When we have no one to sit next to at launch, when we move to a new city, or when nobody has time for us at the weekend. But over the last few decades, this occasional feeling has become chronic for millions. In the UK, 60% of 18 to 34-year-olds say they often feel lonely. In the US, 46% of the entire population feel lonely regularly. We are living in the most connected time in human history, and yet, an unprecedented number of us feel isolated. Being lonely and being alone are not the same thing. In today's digital world, the way we experience loneliness has drastically changed. The constant connectivity that social media provides has paradoxically left us feeling more isolated than ever. Do you know that feeling? You're surrounded by people, or rather their profiles, their pictures, their perfectly curated lives, yet you feel empty. There's this hollowness that no amount of scrolling likes or messages can fill. Loneliness in the middle of a digital crowd. The fear of being alone has never been greater than it is today because we're constantly reminded of what we're supposedly missing. It seems like everyone's connected, everyone's busy, everyone's happy, except us. But those connections, those digital ties, how real are they? How many of these friends would actually be there for you when you truly need them? Think about it for a moment. How often do you reach for your phone just to escape that creeping feeling of loneliness? It's almost instinctual, isn't it? A quick check of Instagram, a scroll through TikTok, maybe a message or two. For a brief second, it feels like you're connected, like you belong to something. But the truth is, these digital distractions don't fill the void. They just numb it. Deep down, you know that when the screen goes dark, the loneliness is still there, waiting. The more time we spend online, the more we begin to measure our worth through the eyes of others. We chase likes, comments, and followers, thinking that these will somehow validate us, make us feel less alone. But can a notification ever replace a real connection? Can a DM truly comfort you the way a face-to-face conversation would? Probably not. And yet, in this hyper-connected world, we keep chasing digital validation, even if it leaves us feeling more isolated than before. This fear of loneliness is universal, but in the digital age, it feels amplified. We are constantly bombarded by images of people having fun, being in relationships, living their best lives. And when you compare yourself to that, it's easy to feel like you're the only one struggling, the only one feeling disconnected. But here's the thing. Most of us feel it. We just don't talk about it. Social media is a highlight reel, a curated version of reality, and it's time we stop letting it define our sense of worth. Ask yourself, how many times have you scrolled through your feed only to feel more alone afterward? That's the question you need to confront. Because the real issue isn't just the loneliness itself, it's how we're taught to deal with it. Instead of embracing solitude, instead of reaching out to those who truly matter, we bury ourselves deeper in our screens, hoping for a connection that will never truly come. As the digital world expands, so does the gap between what we see and what we feel. We've replaced face-to-face interactions with likes, turned conversations into emojis, and traded real connections for fleeting moments of attention. But the emptiness remains. You can scroll for hours, jump from app to app, and still feel like something is missing. That something is real connection, the kind that doesn't come with a filter, doesn't need to be liked, and doesn't disappear after 24 hours. Have you ever stopped to think about how much of your life is spent seeking validation online? You post a picture and wait. You refresh the page to see who's liked it, who's commented. And for a moment it feels good. You feel seen. But soon enough that feeling fades and you're back to where you started. Alone, disconnected, wondering why the likes and comments weren't enough. This constant cycle of validation and emptiness is exhausting. It pulls you in, promising connection but delivering isolation. You're surrounded by people, yet how many of them truly know you? How many would notice if you disappeared from their feed tomorrow? These questions are hard to face, but they're important. Because the truth is, we've been sold the idea that more followers, more engagement equals more connection, but it doesn't. Real connection is deeper than that. It's about vulnerability, trust, and being seen for who you are, not just the version of yourself you present online. In these moments of quiet, When the screen is off, when it's just you and your thoughts, do you feel truly connected to anyone? Or do you feel more alone than ever, despite having hundreds, maybe even thousands of friends online? That's the heart of the loneliness we're talking about, the fear of being alone in a world where connection seems endless, yet so few of those connections are real. And that's why we stay plugged in, because the idea of sitting with that loneliness, facing it head on, is terrifying. But here's the thing, real connection, the kind we're all craving, doesn't come from avoiding loneliness. It comes from embracing it, from being brave enough to sit in that discomfort and reach out to people in a way that's real and meaningful, not through screens, but through genuine human interaction. Fill in. How often do you catch yourself endlessly scrolling, hoping to feel connected, but instead feeling more isolated? It's like you're constantly searching for someone to make you feel less alone. But the truth is, those brief moments of attention online can't replace the deeper connection you crave. And that's where the fear of loneliness in the digital world comes in. In a world where everyone's always available, yet no one's really there, it's easy to feel like you're the only one struggling. But the reality is, so many people feel exactly what you feel, trapped in this cycle of seeking validation through screens, only to feel emptier afterward. Social media has made us experts at presenting ourselves, at curating a version of life that looks perfect. But how many of those moments are real? How many of those connections would last if the apps disappeared tomorrow? Think about it. How often have you sat in a room full of people, all staring at their phones, with no one actually talking to each other? That's the reality of the digital world today. We're more connected than ever, but at the same time, we've never felt more alone. And that's what makes the fear of loneliness so powerful. It's not just about being physically alone. It's about feeling emotionally disconnected in a world where connection is supposed to be endless. But here's the truth. Real connection doesn't happen through likes or comments. It happens when you look up from your screen and truly engage with the people around you. When you stop chasing digital approval and start seeking out genuine, face-to-face moments of vulnerability and honesty. Those are the connections that last, the ones that fill the emptiness you've been trying to escape. The problem with the digital world is that it's constantly giving you the illusion of connection. You're always just one message away, one click from interacting with someone. Yet why does it feel so empty? It's because those interactions, while quick and convenient, lack depth. They don't offer the comfort or security of real relationships. You're left feeling like you're always reaching out but never truly touching anything real. Have you ever noticed that the more time you spend online, the more anxious you feel when you're offline? It's as if being disconnected for even a moment sparks a fear that you'll miss something important, that you'll fall behind in this digital race. But the irony is, the more you stay plugged in, the more you disconnect from what truly matters. Real people, real experiences, and real moments of connection. The fear of loneliness in this digital age is not just about being alone, it's about being surrounded by noise and still feeling unheard. You post, you engage, you interact, but do you ever feel truly seen? Social media has taught us to value the number of followers, the number of likes, but not the quality of relationships. That's why even with hundreds of online friends, you can still feel isolated. Because numbers don't equate to meaningful connections, and no amount of digital interaction can replace the warmth of real human presence. The truth is, the more we immerse ourselves in the digital world, the more disconnected we become from our true selves. We start to measure our worth by the attention we get online, by the notifications that light up our screens. But at the end of the day, when you turn off your phone, when the noise fades, you're left with just you. And that's where the fear of loneliness truly hits. When you realize that all the digital interaction in the world can't fill the void of real, authentic connection. So what can you do? It starts with recognizing that real connection isn't found through a screen. It's found in the moments when you're present, when you're truly engaged with the people around you. The digital world can never replace the depth of face-to-face conversations, the comfort of sitting with someone in silence, or the feeling of being understood without saying a word. It's time to stop chasing validation online and start seeking real, meaningful relationships in your life. Put the phone down, step away from the constant noise, and ask yourself, who truly matters? Who are the people you can rely on, the ones who are there for you even when you're not posting or sharing? Those are the connections that will fill the void, that will remind you that you're not alone, even when it feels like the rest of the world is just pixels on a screen. In the end, it's not about how many followers you have or how much attention you get online. It's about the real connections you build, the ones that don't disappear when the battery dies. Embrace the moments of solitude, reach out to those who matter, and remind yourself that true connection is always worth more than fleeting digital interactions.